We are now coming to the public forum. This is your part of the meeting where you can bring up or bring before the council anything to do with items on the agenda or of general interest to the council. At my discretion, that would be 3 minutes each. And it is really not for councillors, and it shouldn't be for debate. Over to you, please. Lynn. Oh, sorry, can I have Lynn and then I'll come to you, Fran.
I would like it noted that despite my request for a public apology and the correcting of the misrepresentation of the statement I made at the parish council meeting in January of this year, no action has been taken by the editor/reporter of the Poland News. I now understand that this person to be someone unknown to me, a Mr. James Harris.
Thank you. Fran.
Can I ask for an item to be included on the next agenda, next meeting?
Yes, you can.
Which would be the drains down 4 Street.
Thank you.
So there's been an incident this week when South West Water have had to be called out to pump the drains out between 47 and 45 and down the street. It's not completed yet. They've had to come back tonight to pump again, but the objects seem to be baby wipes, J-cloths that have accumulated, and it's a major problem now where they may have to actually dig up the road to fix the problem. I wondered if we could put notices up or something to say, people, please stop doing this in public interest.
Anyone else, please?
Public. There's a few things I wanted to bring to your attention generally. One is about the new Care Act, because it may have implications for you and your families. So from April this year, the new Care Act will help make care and support more consistent across the country. Care and support is the term we use to describe the help some adults need. This has become important to me because my father has been a recipient of this care in recent weeks, being very poorly. If you receive care and support or help to care for someone, you could benefit from these changes. It could be additional help for washing, dressing, eating, etc., keeping in touch with families and friends, get care and support at home, or even live in care. There's also help for carers as well, because it's seen that carers, like myself, sometimes they need a bit of support as well in the home to enable their loved one to stay in the home. There is a cap also been introduced on care costs, which is £72,000. I've typed up quite a bit of information about that, which members can look at their leisure. I won't go into all of it now because it's quite detailed, but I thought it was quite important that you may want to pass that on to your parishioners as their new entitlement. You may remember probably a year ago I came to you with a request to write to government about standing up for Cornwall campaign. This was about Cornwall having the ability to be in charge of the way it spends its European structural funds. We thought we'd been successful in that aim, and certainly we celebrated the fact that they had given us control over our structural funds, but such is the way with government, we haven't, which is very annoying. Although there have been assurances that any projects that we put forward for the 600 million euros, we will have a big say in that. Ultimately, it will be our own national government that will have a say over our structural funds, which I think is very wrong. Much of this to and froing has meant over 18 months delay in the European structural funds being available to us. But this week they have agreed, so there will be first calls for EU funded projects within a matter of days. This is important to a parish council like yourself because part of that European structural fund is what's called community-led local development. It used to be called LEADER or local action group, and that gives access to the community as well as to parish council for small projects that would improve the economic and skills within your area. So this is sort of good news tinged with bad news, but all in all I think it's quite it's positive that we're moving forward and actually can have the funds to spend. You might recall that Visit Cornwall's funding was removed in the last budget round, which was very worrying for us all, as tourism is very important not only to Lanteglos but to the whole of Cornwall. But Cornwall Council has given a go-ahead to a creation of a Visit Cornwall Community Interest Company, which is going to be led by the private sector to market Cornwall as a key tourist destination in the future. Following the Council's decision to withdraw the funding for Visit Cornwall because of the £196 million we have to save over the next 4 years, this organisation is now up and ready to run on the 1st of April, which is the day after tomorrow. The Council has provided some one-off funding of £300,000 to get it off the ground, sort of transition funds. So we really shouldn't see any difference other than the taxpayer of Cornwall is not paying for Visit Cornwall. The businesses of Cornwall are paying for Visit Cornwall.
Sorry, Edwina, what was it called?
It's the European Structural Funds.
Thank you.
Finally, one last thing before I go to more local issues. The government's issued new policy in the final week of this Parliament, and there's been lots and lots of announcements about the planning system. And this one is planning exception policy for starter homes. Buying an open market house has become even more affordable, especially for those first-time buyers, and that's particularly true in Lanteglos, where the ratio of mortgage to value is about 1 to 20. It's just impossible for some people to get on the housing market. So this new policy is for first-time buyers. Local planning authorities and developers should work together to determine what size and type of starter home is most appropriate for a particular starter home. And to qualify for such a home, an applicant needs to be under 40. That sends alarm bells immediately, because it's not just first-time buyers, it's last-time buyers that also have difficulty getting into that market. But you must not have been a homeowner before. They are offering a 20% discount, and that's being paid for by the developer not having to make contributions to open space or normal Section 106 things that we could expect. So we cannot seek contributions for education or open space or any other social rent, so affordable housing. So on one hand I think it could be a good thing, but on another hand I think where the rental market is so overheated in places like Polruan, that I'm not sure that it's going to deliver what's hoped to be, that it will deliver. I thought I'd give a statement about the land movement up at Bones Meadow, which happened, I think, last Sunday. A bit flaky on when it actually happened, but I'm concerned, obviously, about that, given the history and the interest in the site, and to give reassurance. And this is a statement from the developer. The area of the land movement is made up of illegally dumped, imported, friable loose material that has been fly tipped by local builders and the like over the past years, as completely unrelated to the site strata on which the houses have been built. This particular problem is specific to the area of the land owned by Mr. Rowe in Rose Cottage, adjoining their site, and our immediate entrance around plot 1, and is not common to the overall site strata. because of the low bedrock and retaining wall was not suitable for auger piling, and I must admit I don't know what auger piling is. Although we investigated the possibility, nor could it be shored and concreted in a conventional manner, as there is nowhere to brace it off. Our solution was to drive temporary but sacrificial sheet steel piles to hold back the adjacent slope. This is fine, but on reaching the bedrock, the sheet piles veered off, seeking the easiest exit. This left a small area with some gaps in the base. Once excavation had arrived at the lower level, this loose foreign material simply ran out, just like sand in an egg timer. The retaining wall remained stable. We have now completed the new retaining wall to a level that now seals off the gap in the base. It is now a reinforced concrete wall attached to a reinforced concrete base. This has been designed by an extremely capable qualified engineer, backed with public liability insurance, as with all aspects of our site. Having given the installation additional time to settle, we will backfill the void on Monday, which I presume is today, and perhaps residents might know whether that's happened, safe in the knowledge that it will not be able to run free once again. The adjoining owner will have the benefit of a stable wall retaining his land. The original pilings would be left in, but sacrificed, given even further comfort to the retention, although it has not been included with the retaining wall calculation, so it's additional. By the time the parish council meet, full remediation will have taken place. If convenient, you and the chairman are welcome to meet on site, etc. And he considers that this is not a landslip or a slope failure. It's inaccurate and inappropriate words to use for what has occurred, and will no doubt be causing concerns, quite rightly too. Because of the nature of the dumped material, it has made this area of the construction a particularly difficult operation, and I commend all those involved in resolving it. That's not my words, that's their words. So members may have something to say about that. I'm very happy to answer any questions that I can.
Oh yes, we were going to ask you about any update from Cornwall Housing on the first part.
To put signage up on the site, highlighting that it's Cornwall Housing land, it's not highways. However, as suggested at the last meeting, if you want a permit system, that would have to be part of a traffic regulation order, and I believe they've given a quotation of around £3,000 for that, in order for them to be able to properly enforce it. That would entail consultation with the residents. So that's something for the parish council to consider, but at least we've got the acknowledgement that they are going to put signage up to try and dissuade people.
Yeah, what would be on the signs?
Sorry. Do you like council?
Well, I can let you have the exact wording,
Right.
but it's saying that this is Cornwall Housing private land, and I guess residents parking. But enforcing that can only be really effective with a traffic regulation order. So in some ways it's sort of a bit of a sop to it. I'm not sure it's got much teeth, councillor, but at least it's giving the random person that turns up maybe think, oh, that's not where I should be parking.
Thank you.
Is actually owns the land, and who's responsible for maintaining it, please? Because last year there was a big pothole up there. Somebody injured their ankle. It comes up under our street lighting as an addition. Could we be clear that councillors who actually owns that land?
It's Cornwall Housing that own the land. It is not highways.
It is not highways, it's Cornwall
It's
Housing.
Cornwall Housing.
And do the private owners up there,
They have the right to go across it.
but do they own part of the land
No.
the same as Badinick, which was designated parking spaces?
They don't own it. they own the right to go across it,
That's all.
which is very different, and that's the
The
same.
whole of the parking area is Cornwall housing.
It's Cornwall housing, and that's the same position as for Dinnick. The residents don't own it. Cornwall housing retain it, but they don't. They only have the right to be there, not the right to own it.
So when the tenants purchased their own property up there, they purchased nothing of what was gardens up there.
No, not on the road.
What about the bollards in? Can we have a sign put up that people can't put bollards there? Because half the time there's about half a dozen bollards in there when you go up there.
They shouldn't be doing that because nobody's got a right to. And we did check back through some of the back through the deeds. They have no right to. They have a right to park there, but no right to an individual space. So the placing of bollards there have no validity, and I guess if you live up there and you turn up there and find a bollard, you can remove it and put your own car there. I acknowledge that it's difficult because there are more cars than spaces, and quite rightly you'd like to be able to park right outside your house. But the only way of guaranteeing that absolutely is to have a residents parking scheme where residents pay £25 a year and they have the right to park there. They don't get a dedicated space, and I'm happy to forward you the residents parking scheme policy if you'd like to see it, but there is a cost attached.
Given the cost to set up a parking permit scheme, who then takes the revenue from that? So it's £25.
I think that the £25 is to cover the cost of the administration of that. It's a legal order, so it's a very detailed process. It goes all the way up to the Secretary of State for signing, so that a civil enforcement officer can enforce upon it. So the local authority keeps that as part of the cost.
So that would go for all council estates in Poland, i.e. Werry Place has got the same problem, beneath where Councillor Kelly lives, up Greenbank's got the same problem.
We did look at the request of a resident, particularly up at Greenbank, where they were having the same problem, that particularly in the summer visitors were parking. The sign for the restricted parking is just up the hill, isn't it? Halfway up the hill of Greenbank, and they were parking on the other side of that. I believe the council looked at doing a traffic regulation order for Greenbank, and decided at the time from memory that the cost of £3,000, they didn't feel that it was not something you wanted to do. What you could do is you could include all of those locations on one order, but a word of caution with that, and we've come up against this in lieu, if you put them all on one order, when you're going through the process of consultation, if you get some serious injections on one, the others fail as well.
Nope.
So we're separate in lieu, for example, North Road's having one, Bonson Close is having a separate one, and we're having to pay for that.
And how would that extend up to Kendall Park? Is that would that road come under such a scheme, or is that a different
You
housing?
decide where you want your traffic regulation order to be. It's entirely up to you.
So it could be a private estate, or it could be a council estate then? You could have a
Is
traffic
that,
order.
is that private up there?
Well, like Ocean View's private.
Kendall Park is sanctuary housing.
But who owns the road, because there's street lighting on it?
I don't
The
know.
road is highway, if you want to have a look at the list, the road is highway, but the parking top and bottom of Kendall Park belongs to the Housing Association. So the 4 parking bays on the right hand side you go up Kendall Park are highway, anyone can park on it, anyone can park on the road. But the 2 top and bottom car parks are for permit holders only.
So these parking restrictions could affect council estates and private estates, if so desired.
You decide. It's up to you to decide what you would want to be included. Chairman, shall I send you the policy again?
Yeah.
So that you can see and decide.
I've had somebody, Mr. Medley from Greenbank. He can't be here tonight, but he is now saying, disabled though he is, he can't always park up in
No.
Greenbank. And that's a very definite thing that holiday makers or people renting properties are being advised by whoever's letting them to go and park up there and not use the car parks. We're not even in the holiday season yet, so we do really need to look at this.
I'll send you all the policy again. I know I thought you looked at it because this came up before,
Yes,
didn't
this
it?
is
Oh,
this
it's the same man.
Yes, so I think
Yeah.
we really do need to look at this now because we're talking about three different places.
Well, I think with First Park, I think we should have a sign that says no bollards as well, because when people come home, there's half a dozen bollards there, and then there have been instances that somebody's moved the bollard, parked their car in there, and then the person comes home and blocks them in.
Thank you. If you could let us have that, please.
I
and
will
we'll
let you
to
have the policy
have that.
and you can perhaps put that on a future agenda discussion.
Thank you. Oh, and you promised to let us have the costings of the glow-in-the-dark
Yeah,
things.
I have got that. If you bear with me. Sorry, bear with me. I thought I printed them out. Yeah, here we go. Luton Council have agreed to fund 10 posters of 2 different designs, so 20 posters, £400. So by my math, that's 20 quid each, isn't it? 20. They've also agreed to fund 30 A4 bin stickers at £150. I think the bin stickers are that size, and the posters are A4. So they're not cheap.
Can you repeat those so we get it right?
I'll send you on the email, Lynette, then you can see it for sure. They haven't ordered them yet in lieu, and if you did want to do it, then we can see if a bigger quantity could get us a discount. So I think Paul Perro are also looking at that as well.
Thank you very much.
Let's see if I would do it this summer again for them. And I said, yeah, that's not a problem. I had to make arrangements for the water to be put on, but they are now all fully open and operational from today. That's down the bottom. There's been no problems with vandalism up the top or at Frogmore, except for a tap left on at St Saviour's one night. That was just kids mucking around. Your water bill might go up a little bit. It's been blocked twice in the last 6 months, which means it's being used, and I've been able to clear that pretty quickly. Nothing else serious at all.
Thank you. Right. Any more comments or questions? Thank you. It is with considerable regret that I have to announce Kevin's resignation as Deputy Chairman and as Councillor with effect from the 19th of April. The Freedom of Information request, this is minute 28 refers. Members to receive an update on decisions made relating to the Freedom of Information request that have already been made. A report has been circulated to you that was written by Kevin. Have you all got copies of that? Yeah, and that has gone, I believe there are copies in the room. Since then, I can tell you that the redacted versions of these, that means there are no names, are now on the Information Commission's website. If we wish to put those onto our website, those are the versions we have to use. They're the only version we are permitted to use. I am asking you whether it is your wish that we post those redacted versions to the website. I've got Bernie, I've got Julian, thank you very much. The full version is not for publication. We have a third Freedom of Information request. It's a new request and it's case number FS 505-70134. We have been informed by the Information Commissioner that that is being looked into and we await further information on that. Our response to that is already covered. What we have said so far is actually in that report that has gone out already. That report, The substance of it is also in the Lanteglos Parish News. Thank you. Parliamentary election, it cannot overstate your notice. We've got a general election on May the 7th. So there are notices up, and as of today, no MP is an MP anymore. We're coming to the War Memorial Committee. There isn't really a further update, except to say that Gavin has gone back to Heritage UK, who are they're busy. Just let's say they're busy, and they have not come up and done a proper site survey yet, so that's all I can report there. The next thing that came round to you was a whole list of Cornwall Council roadworks. There's quite a list of these. It's inevitably going to cause disruption, but we need it doing, because some of those areas are just getting bigger and bigger. I think the one by Toby is lethal. And they will inevitably involve road closures. All of that information has gone up on the parish notice board.
Can we have one addition to that, please? Nothing's been received about repairing 4th Street yet. Adrian Drake said it got put back in January. Now that hole, despite I've been accused of exaggerating the depth of it in public and on the website, that hole now is a good 3 inches deep.
Okay.
People have complained to me that they've tripped and fallen in
Yeah.
it.
Has that been reported? Again?
Not
Yeah,
yet.
that needs to go, please. In 4th Street, yes, please.
You know, we was told that was going to be repaired first week of
Yes,
January.
so it's wanting to know further information on that one. Thank you very much. Right, we're now coming on to item 46, which is planning matters. Bones Meadow, members to agree any final actions in relation to the planning consents at Bones Meadow. Adrian, can I ask you to lead on this one, please?
Yes, myself, Councillors Jolliffe, Kelly, Truman, Adams and Wild met over the weekend because to try and bring this to a sensible conclusion, it's felt that a letter from the Parish Council to Cornwall Council and the developers, just raising 3 very simple points as to where we stand on it. And if I just read out the 3 sentences. Point 1, the Parish Council supported the planning application despite not all relevant documents being made available. The developer did promise to supply all missing documents when available. So that was statement 1. We never did receive the rest, but we're not going to dwell on anything. The second point was the Parish Council has raised its concerns and the concerns of residents about site stability and drainage, which is all we have ever done. And finally, anybody with any concerns should contact Cornwall Council. Concerns brought to the Parish Council will also be passed on to Cornwall Council.
Thank you. Are you putting that as...
For the clerk to put into better English if required.
I've just one question. After listening to Councillor Hanniford's comments earlier on, they have now actually admitted that there is contaminated soil, etc. at the top of the site. I would like to know now if their intentions are of actually removing it, because we did actually state from day one that this had been used as a tip, and just wondered what their future programme is for the contaminated ground.
Adrian, do you want to come back on that?
Maybe that, I think that's probably a good point to put in between point 2 and 3 then.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because they were made well aware of it when we had a meeting, that was made up ground there, and it was made a dumping ground.
So what we have, for those people that weren't at that meeting, is a letter that is now running to 4 bullet points. Lynette will put together to go to Cornwall Council. Thank you. Any further comments on that? Adrian, thank you for doing that. Can I have, is that a firm proposal now, please?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. And, yeah, thank you very much. Everybody did. We have one planning application to look at this morning, this evening rather, which is Duchy Penguin, 36 4 Street, Polruan, proposed extensions and alterations. I trust you've all seen the plans. I don't know where they've got to. They're there. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any thoughts on this, please?
The extensions out the back, I don't see it's going to overlook anything like that, is it?
I had a look at it online, and from what they're saying, it's what's there at the moment is a single block lean-to. So this sounds to me as though it's going to be an improvement. Yeah. Anybody else on that one?
Can't see anything wrong with it, personally.
Yeah. So it's going to.
We propose that we accept it, pass it.
Yeah. So that's a proposal. Seconder. Show of hands, please. Yes, that's carried. We'll support that one, please.
Could I bring up about the state of these applications online? That application online was extremely difficult to look at. And what I'm really wondering at is whether for in the future that a planning application, the correct size documentation should be passed to the council by the applicant, so we can actually display it and read it properly.
Can I just go back a minute? Who seconded that, please?
Oh, I did.
It was okay. I think the whole business of how planning applications get to us is going to change, and I'm going to ask Adrian to chip in here because of that course that you were on, please.
Yes, I think effectively, I might hear a grunt from Edwina, but I think effectively as of now, we're not going to receive any more paper copies.
So we won't have even those.
So, yes, it's a case of get us offline. What Sarah Mason, when I put the notes, did say, which would seem a very good idea, although it will put a bit of extra work on the clerk, is every time an application will also be emailed to you, the reference number and everything, for you to write to the applicant and their agent, informing them when our meeting is, they're more than welcome to come and make the presentation, and to ensure that on that date we have the most up-to-date plans available, because obviously when a planning application goes in, every so often things change, minute details probably. So I think that's our best way forward. Generally, on small applications, looking online is sufficient, but even so, it's certainly worth for us and the public to try and encourage people who are making planning applications to come to our meetings.
Yeah. So, John, that was actually in another way what you were asking for.
Yeah, that's right.
Rather than rely on Cornwall Council to send us anything, is our best bet really is to go to the agent.
I think what they put on the screen is totally inadequate, and quite often you can't open the page. You've got temporarily unavailable. Whereas in this modern day and age, surely the applicant can provide us with at least a minimum A3 drawing, which is crystal clear to everybody.
Yeah, which is what Adrian's saying that you suggest that we do in future. Exactly. So can we adopt that, please?
Yeah.
That's going to have to be our practice, because we are not going to get those unless we actually ask for them.
No.
Right.
Do we have to put that to the vote?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Oh, I
So
said that.
Adrian, thank you. Right. Back to the planning applications approved. Tredyffron Manor, the removal of the existing greenhouse and erection of building to house wedding venue, car park and visibility display, the listing of building consent that goes with that, Chayakara, conversion of garage to snug and stall, French doors and Juliet balcony, that's the little building in Badinic. And then the two advertisements that we looked at last time, the consent for the siting of a visibility sign and welcome and orientation sign for Lanteglos Bay, car parking, don't know why they call it FOI, it's Lanteglos by FOI. And then an advertisement consent for the siting of a visibility sign and welcome and orientation sign for Lanteglos Bay car park, Lanteglos by 5. We supported this, provided that the sign is not sited in the middle of the road as suggested on the plan. So I assume that that is done. Right. 18 Meadow Close Polruan, alterations and additions to existing dwelling, including a 3-storey extension at the side, conservatory extension at rear, replacement porch and some external cladding. The Bedinic Boatyard, Newquay Cellars, opposite Cafe Mill, replacement of the boat building shed and conversion of redundant first floor store to residential use. 27/28 West Street, Polruan, conversion of 27/28 West Street into a single dwelling with minor alterations. We supported all of those, by the way, and then the final one is the Boatyard, East Street, Polruan, proposed extension to Boatyard. We supported that application, that has also been approved. Okay. Right, we're now going on to environmental and amenity matters. Members to consider the implications of the following points that have been confirmed by Cornwall Council. Toilets will be open from the 1st of April 2015 to the end of September 2015 by Cornwall Council. They will not be open over October half-term unless additional funding can be found. The Parish Council can open, maintain and run the unisex disabled toilet from the 1st of November 2015 to March 31st 2016. And if these arrangements are put in place, they could run this from October the 1st instead, so that the October half-term is covered, which is what we tried to do this year and mostly did. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to propose we quickly go through, do this one over and say we open them for October. We've got the money.
Yeah, we have got the money, but could somebody please come up with a costing for that period? We know what we're going
With the costings on last year's one on the sheet that I issued out.
Yeah,
what
could
John
we have a
James
more
issued out.
accurate one, please? Yes.
I'd like to propose we open October the 1st and that item's ticked off then.
Yeah, I would like to see some firm figures. Thank you. Yes, but I think pending that. So John has proposed it. Do we have a seconder, please? Thank you, OK. Show of hands, please. Thank you. Do we have any further developments? Further draft, please.
I have had the costings from Cornwall Council finally for the summer and the winter, and I've forwarded them to the Town Trust with a covering letter asking for a draft lease to be sent back to us. So once we receive that, we can
Okay,
go
so
the next step.
it could be that we'll be looking at this
Next
in the
time.
April meeting. Thank you very much for that. Right. The key lighting, if I can find it. Kevin received on the 11th of March a phone call from Dave Swiggs at South West Water. They have disconnected and removed the 2 lamps over the ferry steps. Kevin asked if the remaining newer lamp provided sufficient illumination. Dave Swiggs said it does, so there is nothing further for them to do. He had also, this is Dave Swiggs, had looked at the clock but said that it was beyond repair. A replacement we were led to believe by Dave Swiggs will cost in the region of £18,000, and it is certainly not a budget priority for them. I can't speak for the Town Trust, but I think I might have the agreement of the Parish Council. I think that is not a high priority, certainly not at the moment.
Well, I can't see how a clock costs more 18 grand, more like 1800 if it was gold plated.
Would you like to look into that?
Oh yes.
Thank you.
The other bit is for Mr. Swiggs to comment that that light on that pole is adequate for the ferry steps is a falsehood. It doesn't. It doesn't shine all the way down to the low tide mark. If you ask the ferryman, it goes about halfway down.
Thank you.
I was fairly certain that the agreement before was that the pole on the end of the quay would have a identical light to the one that were placed at the top of the steps. So, personally, I would like for the clerk to write back to him and say, well, no, that's not sufficient. We had agreed a light was going to be put on the end. Please do so.
Right, so that you're proposing that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Show of hands, so could you do that, please? We've got his email address.
It is a health and safety issue, I think.
Yes,
because
it
when
is.
it's a very low tide, it's actually most dangerous because it is very slippery as well.
So is it just, it's one light right on the end of the quay that shines?
It's on the steps.
Mm.
See, originally, before the quay was altered, there was one lamp post which used to shine directly over the bottom step and highlight the steps.
Yeah.
They amended the quay, and when they reconstructed and reconfigured the lighting, they put 2 lights on, which covered the steps from top to bottom. These lights became redundant, or not cost effective to repair. South West Water charged us for 2 to 3 years for electric and maintenance, and they was found out that they wouldn't do it either. So they removed the 2 light fittings and promised to say they would refit replacement lighting. They haven't done. Temporary lighting was organised by the Town Trust and the previous clerk on one of the Town Trust poles, but that light is on Town Trust property and it only shines halfway down the steps.
Right, so we're saying on health and safety plans and on replacement.
You know, you just say the lighting supplied is totally inadequate.
Yeah.
Right, the business of the clock, they're obviously not going to do the clock, so I suggest that for the moment we defer the clock. Thank you. Right, show of hands, please. Who
I should think the
proposed?
passage of time is cheaper than
I
that
did,
clock.
Adrian did. Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Right. Neighbourhood development plan, please. The meeting of March the 16th was cancelled, so we need to set a new date. John, would you like to take this one, please?
Right, we did neighbourhood development plan. There's a meeting I'm attending in Tap House at the end of April where the neighbourhood plan's going to be discussed and presented by various people who are taking part in the neighbourhood plan. We've had difficulty getting permission to print an accurate map of this parish, but we're now allowed to use the copyright of the prose map. But what we feel we need is a clearer idea, because when we looked at the map of this parish, we have virtually got no land available. We've got enough space for, say, 12 houses up the back of Kendall Park. There is one field which is agricultural land which is privately owned at the back of Every. The other side of the campsite there is one more field which is privately owned. Now the rest of Polruan is totally surrounded by National Trust, which then only leaves fields at the back of Bidinick. And as Councillor Wilds found out, the drainage situation in Polruan is dire. Polruan 30 years ago had a sewage embargo placed on it. So when you go to build any more housing estates on here, the sewage can't support it, but Bidinick only got a 7-inch drain. So if you put on, say, 40 houses, 30 houses, the sewage is going to be overloaded. There is absolutely no infrastructure in the parish to support that number of houses. There's no bus services, there's no banks, there's one shop. We've got absolutely nothing, and no jobs. So what's the use of dragging, if somebody said we've got to have 40 houses, 40 families, where's 40 jobs coming from?
So where does this just with
So-
new meeting date?
So what I suggest is, well, I'm going to the meeting end of next month, and to ask whether we really need an in-depth neighbourhood plan when actually we've got nothing to discuss, because we've got a total shortage. You know, is it worth having a survey costing £7,500, wasting a lot of paperwork, when we're down to minimum?
I have a feeling that the Labour plan incorporated things like the ability to be able to bring more jobs into the area and make sure that you maintain that possibility. I thought it was for more than actually just looking at where houses could be built.
No, it's just for planning. It's just purely for
The
planning purposes, for planning of houses.
It's not just houses though, is what I'm trying to say.
But nobody's replied to us. We've had meetings with the harbour authorities August last year. They said they'd come back to us with what their plans are for the future. Tom's boatyard couldn't even get a boat shed built to take on more contracts without a 6-month fight, and they were in danger of losing a contract.
It's to do with roads. Maybe John goes to his meeting and we'll know a little bit more about how it's working in the area. And then maybe we could hear back from
Now, I'm remembering what these meetings are like. It's possible to send more than one representative to these meetings, but there is only one vote per parish. Could I ask whether somebody else would also go to that meeting? Because I think probably on this, which is going to be a bit thorny, 2 heads are better than 1.
What date is it?
Yeah, John, have you got the date, please?
29th of April.
29th of
Is that the
April.
It's after our meeting.
Yes, it
Sorry,
is.
it's Tap House.
Yes.
Thank you.
Andrew, yes?
So I'm not
Hey,
going
no,
to go. I'll raise another point actually. When you finish your go. Are we not in danger by we've deferred every time this year doing? Is it not worth having the meeting, because you never know, somebody might, somebody within the parish might have a bloody good idea, and at the moment, while we're scratching our heads not being able to think of it, nothing's happening. So I think at the very least, regardless of what you've got, regardless of the state of the drains and stuff, because ultimately any development, South West Water, is all going to have to be dealt with eventually. So rather than saying we can't do things because the drains can't take it, we've got to look at it, actually, we're going to do this, and South West Water are going to have to get prepared for it in the future, but at the moment it's just turning into a complete waste of time on the agenda to keep deferring.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there, because it does, at the back of my mind, is the thought that our neighbourhood plan is part and links with other neighbourhood plans with the Cornwall County plan. If we don't decide or say what we want and get that agreed, somebody else will be telling us what we're going to do. We have to have a view on this. So I think we really do need to take just grab it.
Even if the information you put together, John, it isn't full enough, for an hour-long meeting, I think we need to do, in the middle of April. What's the date in April? Just pick a date. Invite people to come.
Yeah. Then Clark has suggested if we did wait until after that meeting, but you're saying about halfway through April.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking. Well, we can't come up with ideas. I know nobody is on the phone or emailing us with anything useful to do with it.
The meeting on the 29th, sorry to interrupt, is for all local councils to get together and really kind of thrash out what people have done that's working and what people are finding that isn't working, and stumbling blocks, and it's almost like a networking thing so that people can find ways around it. So maybe if John and Bernie and whoever else could go.
I take the point, but equally, having only had one meeting on the subject is the point I'd make that happen until after the meeting, after this other meeting. The long and short of that then.
Well, what we could do then is we could incorporate it in a council meeting. Because we've shorted the material, bring the projector down with the screen and show people actually what's happening and what plans we've got. Because unless we have employers and industry in this area to give us an idea of exactly what they want, we're going nowhere.
Right, do we have any more thoughts on that, please? I'm not sure about putting it into a
I'd sooner have a separate meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, John.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, okay. Yeah. Right. So where are we?
Well, we're still there. Are we having a meeting, or if so, when is it going to be? Or are they going to wait till we've gone to the meeting on the 29th for a report back?
Yeah, because if I can also say to you that, I just remind you that because of the bank holidays, our main meeting, which is also the annual meeting, is, correct me, I think it's on the 17th, isn't it? Doesn't give us a great deal of time. May 17th, if we're going to wait after this May until the 29th meeting.
May 17th is Sunday.
Well, it's got to be the next day then. Sorry about that.
And the other bit is, with the general election, if Labour get in, Eric Pickles' grand scheme of plans could all get changed.
I think that might take rather longer than that.
Probably take another look.
We're lucky.
Now, can I have a proposal, please? When are we going to hold this meeting? And where?
After the meeting.
Yeah. Vic, what are you saying? Vic, what have you got?
First week of May.
First week of May.
When is the meeting? 29th?
29. Yeah, it's after our next council meeting.
So that'll be either about the 2nd of May, be the
When's the
first
bank
Monday.
holiday,
It's
please?
on the 4th.
That 2nd of May is a Sunday.
The 4th is bank holiday.
4th of May is bank holiday Monday.
Right.
I
I'm
would
not here
suggest-
that week anyway.
I would suggest maybe the week beginning the 4th after bank holiday,
Yeah.
or the 11th, because you need to have time to work after
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we said
presentation.
for the week beginning the 11th, okay? Thank you.
I'll be away for that.
Okay. Any particular days, or do you want to go for Monday? And yeah,
That's John.
Is this an actual neighbourhood plan meeting then, or is this just to discuss what happened at a meeting? Because if it's just
Well,
to
there
discuss
will
what happened at a meeting, we've got a parish council meeting for that,
which is not until the 18th.
18th. So,
It's okay.
you know, if we're having an extra meeting for the neighbourhood plan, it has to be, in my view, for the neighbourhood plan, not to discuss, oh, well, we heard this at a meeting, what do you think?
Right, so we're putting it back even further.
Well, it's to have the neighbourhood plan, not to have a meeting about a future meeting.
Thank you. Right. So the neighbourhood plan goes off the agenda for April until people have been to the meeting on the 29th, and then it comes back onto the agenda for the May meeting. Right.
Maybe only you could cut that.
Right. The telephone box and the defibrillator. I believe you are about to become the proud owners of a telephone box in the Dinnick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Once the check's been signed.
Right, okay, we haven't got to that yet. Liz, can I ask you to talk about defibrillator?
Quite exciting news, actually. Before I went away, David had a little word with me, and he said that his son-in-law, who works for the Duchy, was quite interested in doing something for the community. And I've spoken to him, and David also has information if you want him to join in case I get anything wrong here. There is a fund called the Duke of Cornwall's Benevolent Fund, which Wes thinks that he can actually write to in order to get a grant. And he is proposing that maybe we go for 2 defibrillators, which means that we could have one here and one in Dinnick. His only concern, or one of his concerns, is that it's probably easier to get the grant if it's actually being put forward on behalf of a charitable trust, which of course we're not, obviously, but the town trust is, and I believe the town trust would be quite keen to do something like this, because obviously we've been talking about defibrillators for so long. It would be rather nice to actually get one, particularly in our environment with so many say elderly people in the winter and a lot of young people coming during the summer when accidents and things can happen. So if he is willing to do that, which he says he is, I propose that we give him our full support. And his view is that we're going to have one in Holborn. The best place is probably the Quay, because that is the place where most people would see it and where most things are likely to go wrong, if they're going to go wrong, with the hope that eventually we will still get a first responder from the fire station, so we'll have them up here anyway. And I think the Town Trust would be willing to look at some of the onward-going costs for that as well, if not, and I think they'd be able to come to us and ask for support. I don't think the Town Trust are quite so keen on maintaining the one over in Bedimmick, but I would propose that maybe we say thank you very much, Wes, bite his hand off, and look at maybe helping to maintain the one in Bedimmick. Did you want to come in and say anything else that I might have forgotten? Or am I allowed to do that?
No, you
No, I'm not, sorry. Thank you very much, David, for doing all this for me.
that sounds... We've suddenly moved forward about 10 steps.
I'm really very excited about it, because all we need is the village, isn't it? And I think we have to be a big thank you to Wes if he's willing to put himself forward for this.
Right, so what the next steps?
So may I propose that we fully back Wes, and if he is able to get them out of the 2 defibrillators, then we need to have it on the agenda and treat a date about having the 2.
So for the April meeting?
Yes, I mean in case it comes up before.
Yes. Okay.
Is this something where we need to write to the Town Trust to say that we want,
I
it's a
think,
sort of a partnership between us to
I think Wes will actually deal with the Town Trust side of it.
right.
I think it is mainly the maintenance of the ongoing maintenance, because obviously when you first buy them, they have a life
Yes.
where they can live by, as it were. It's after that what happens, when the masks are used, when they need to be, the battery needs rechanging and all that sort of thing.
So this is being taken.
Lynn, can you bring us up to date on Frogmore, please?
Oh, well, yes. Verity Biddick, after I emailed her, I think for the 4th time last week, she replied on the 26th of March saying, as previously agreed, yes, I will email you heads of terms prior to your meeting on Monday. She hasn't. So we have nothing more on Frogmore, I'm afraid. It's not for the want of trying.
Well, it's got to be another one to her, hasn't it?
Well, yeah,
We've got
we've had the meeting and we still haven't heard.
Yeah. Right, getting on to the holidays. Thank you. It has been dragging on rather than that one. Right, can we go on to F, please, which is the Village Hall, the Village Hall Committee.
Yes, I have had an acknowledgement from them of who the committee members are, but we didn't get to find out who the actual trustees are, so I've written back and asked if we could possibly have a list of the trustees as well.
Thank you. So, update us next meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I just say on that I am representative for the parish council on that committee, and because I am away a lot, Kevin was actually sort of my substitute. If you need to consider somebody else that can go to the meetings when I'm not here.
Right, and I think we'd better do that now.
Right.
Okay, we'll do it another time. Are you
No, we're not, no. I'm not really conscious of following
Yeah, it's a good point.
Thank you, it is. Right, okay, leave that one for the time being. Thank you. The electronic public rights of way map. They may well be copyright, but we can actually copy them. And we can, you know, for public rights of way purposes, we can distribute them. And that's been confirmed by the country's partnerships officer at Corner.
So we can put it on our website, and if people access our website, wanted to know all the walks, then it would be a good map on our website.
The word is distributed. Yeah, thank you. Following on from that, the advertisement for the public rights of way tenders have been put on the notice boards, and they're actually in the parish magazine, which should be out tomorrow or the next day. I've already got mine.
I haven't heard anybody apply for it yet.
Okay, the closing date is April the 17th. White Cross green grass cutting, that's already started and it's on a rolling contract until 2017. Right, last item in this section. We know we think we're going to get these lovely.
We've got some.
Yeah, where are they?
Are you?
Where are we going to put them?
That Edwina did ask us.
Right, okay.
Right. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right. Where do we need to put these, please? We've got 8. And can they go on with cable ties?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thoughts about this, please?
Can I have one of the
Yeah, so you're talking about battery.
I'm talking about
Battery lane.
It leads out to all the
Yeah.
mess.
Yeah.
I would suggest we need somewhere down near the crossroads at the bottom of
They're just going through the motions.
Bottom of the street.
She's on Street. I don't know whether they're breaking most.
One on the bus shelter, well side.
Got one by the school as well, haven't you? Because it walk goes on.
Say well side.
Well side,
On the hill.
The school, that's 4.
Notice board in the car park. We've got a notice board in
Which
the car
car
park.
park?
St Saviour's car
St
park.
Saviour's.
One of the top car park, is I suppose,
That's what I'm saying, just what I said.
right? The
One
one
up
on
on
the
February.
entrance.
Yeah.
Is there?
February.
I think there's somewhere to attach.
Don't you have one?
Right, nearly there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
V.
Right, what about White Cross or Budinnick?
We could put one in the telephone box.
So beginning of Hall,
Yeah.
yeah.
Budinnick side.
Yes.
What about
There's
The
a
National
telephone
Trust
box
Club.
on White Cross and on there. I don't think there's much of a problem on there, but
No, I don't think there is actually. No.
I went in to look at that.
It's actually trying to think, you would know, I don't know, because I don't have a dog.
It's not having the dog that's the problem, it's actually walking in where the dogs are being.
We could keep one for spare in case
Okay.
somebody finds a particular problem.
So the next thing is, having got those 7 locations, who's going to put them up, please? You've got one.
I volunteer, John.
Thank you. Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
thank you. One in Budinnick. So we've got Battery Lane, 4th Street, bus shelter at one side of the school.
West Street. On that one.
Yeah, right along.
Right by the old chapel there,
Yeah.
West Street.
Moving on to administrative matters. This was something that was raised originally, I think, was it you or Tony, Adrian, about looking at the committees that we have at the moment, the planning committee and the F&GP committee. And there was a feeling, I think, from several members that possibly we ought to bring these back into the full council. We don't have to have committees. And we,
It's always been the same. It's always seemed daft to me to have a meeting about a meeting. So, if anything pressing comes up, in between, we have our regular monthly meeting. If something comes up in between that needs to be dealt with, well, we can have an extraordinary meeting that can be resolved on, rather than meetings that don't achieve much. So I would just propose that we don't bother with an F&GP anymore. We don't bother with the planning committees, and the full council deal with it. If it means that there's an agenda is going to be extra long and there's going to be a long meeting, well, again, we can always just stick in an extraordinary meeting in the middle of a month if required.
yeah. Any more thoughts on that, please? Any comments?
I agree with it.
All right. So we are agreeing to dispense with both those committees, which we can do at any time. When are we going to start doing this?
Effective immediately.
Immediately. Right. That was a proposal then.
Proposed by Adrian.
I think so. On a show of hands. So we have dismissed or dispensed with those 2 committees. Who was the seconder for that?
Right.
Yeah, thank you. Show of hands. Yes? Right. Now, looking at the start times of meetings, I'm proposing a time that is most convenient in allowing all members to attend all meetings. In the standing orders, the only meeting that has a time on it is 7 o'clock for the annual meeting. So we can decide at what time we wish to hold those meetings.
I know Toby, for one, he's not here. He finds it increasingly difficult to get here for, well, when we were doing half-past 6 meetings,
Yeah.
like plan meeting, things like that. I think even an extra quarter of an hour would help him keep his licence, probably.
Right, so how about just going or retaining the 7 o'clock start, which we do for main council meetings?
It's going to be the same meeting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Any further thoughts on that?
Well, I was going to say, or was it just worth moving it to 7:30?
I would say 7:30.
Always too late.
I think for everybody.
As you know, it's only an annual meeting that comes with the requirement. Anything else would be any other time of the day. But
Liz, what do you want to say?
I prefer to keep it at 7 o'clock. If it's a long meeting, you can...
well, I'd say, again, having just disbanded the other committees, that I would suggest if an agenda is looking particularly long, between the clerk and the chairman, or exceed 2 hours. I think it's supposed to say that.
It's
anyway,
2
doesn't it?
hours in the standing orders.
So yeah, if it, you know, I think for this agenda we're going to be about an hour and a half in total, won't we? I think we'll split.
Right,
I'll keep it the same. But
okay. Right, so we've gone round full circle and we've got to keep it the same. 7 o'clock? Is everybody happy with 7 o'clock?
Yeah, totally.
Right, okay, we're not changing the time. But we're not going to have... Liz,
Sorry.
you proposed that,
I did propose it.
Who seconded?
I will have
Thank
one
you.
around
Thank
the
you.
circles.
Okay, thank you. Now, the next one is to consider the advantages of using Pair Technology Services Limited. These are licensed suppliers of Ordnance Survey map data. They can provide a digital mapping system personalised to suit the parish. Distances and areas can be measured, council land can be highlighted, and it can help when considering planning applications. Details have previously been circulated to members. There is a £75 fee for the land registry data to be cut out.
I don't understand that last bit. Are we paying £75 while it includes?
Visit each time.
I didn't understand it either, so I brought the email, which says, the land registry layer is also recently available free of charge, but for a small fee of £75 for us to cut out the data. This can be added to your existing layers for all our existing PT mapper clients. This will show the areas of land which are registered or unregistered, or areas of dispute.
So we pay a one-off fee of £75 and we can have it all on.
I'd like to establish that.
That's what I would like.
Yes.
You know, the
Doesn't
mapping
make it
system.
clear,
No,
does
it
it?
doesn't. Can we go back to them, please?
So you, by the sounds of it, you can pay £75 and just have somebody's
Every
house.
time.
Or,
Every time.
Yeah.
You know, is it all inclusive in a one-off charge?
Okay, so can we just
Yeah, we'll come
You know,
to that.
otherwise I think it'd be a good mapping
clarity on
system.
that? Right, next thing is the website. Members did decide how this could be better utilised.
a few weeks ago. And actually now we're not bothering with the planning committee, it would be good to link our planning applications onto our website. And what, I'll have to email Western Web because there might be a cost to set it up. But what I was thinking we could have is the planning application number and address, which you could click on, which would link you straight to the planning portal, and so people can go on there and see it. And then there'll just be another column where the parish council support or object to it, formal council support or object, and these reference planning applications, all of that information could be easily made available to people. I have absolutely no idea what's going on with advertising on there at the moment. I'll have to go through with the net and see who's paid, who hasn't, and because since I took it over, I don't know who does what on there. So we need to sort out who's paying and who isn't. Some people I have realised haven't paid, so they have come off it. But again, we need to do a proper ad, possibly a circular to everyone who has been on there, because they're all there, they're just turned off from being visible.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. Did you see the email Lynette sent out this afternoon about the mobile link, or linking mobiles to the website?
No.
So that, yeah.
It was very late, sorry. Yes. It was the same thing. It was basically if your website is mainly used by people on PCs, then all good. But if it's mainly used by people on mobile phones, and it was from Western Web, there's a whole new other thing you can do to...
Is the linking of social media to it, and have the Parish Council as a Facebook page and a Twitter account and a Google, something like that. If you go on most websites, they're all on the bottom. Click here. Because ultimately, do we connect to everyone we should be connecting to? And in a digital age, there's nobody younger than me here, is there? No, and Julian's older than me.
I think with Twitter, Facebook page, you open up to all sorts of comments and arguments. There's enough on the website now with our news and alternative news. We don't need a link.
I'm not saying it's there for us to comment on, but it's a means for people to communicate to us. It's not saying we don't need to get into any tit for tats with crisp packets on the road or anything like that, do we? But
Right, so where are we going from here with the website? Because we're talking about better utilised. First of all, let's actually trace out who's using it and have they paid.
yes, politely.
Yes.
Any idea? You know, it's been running now for 2 years plus. You know, nothing much has changed on there. So any ideas?
The installation of the planning apps, yes.
Yeah.
And should the neighbourhood planning get off the ground, then we could have a page on there for the neighbourhood plan.
That would be good. You could have comments then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
a good idea. Then.
Yeah, because you're right, it's another way of getting to people, isn't it? So what's the first steps
Is
in
there any
this?
way of seeing how many
You've got a
calls
log
page
counter.
are?
You've got a counter.
There's not an administration part of it.
We could
I'm
Well,
sure
you
if I
can see
ask.
how many people are actually looking at it, and if it's really a lot of people looking at it, then it's worthwhile doing something different, because there aren't very many people looking at it.
Fine.
Okay. Right, so what are the next steps on that one?
Email Western Web, and it might be something simple. Easy things like that they generally just do, but if there's a cost involved, I'll report back to the next meeting.
Okay, so this is coming back for next meeting.
Yes,
So it's trying to find out who accesses the site,
yes,
the planning app,
yes.
yeah, and paying.
Paying.
Hmm?
Advertising.
And
Advertisers.
Yeah, okay, so...
And the other bit on it is, could we put our audited accounts on?
No, I would be reluctant to do that.
You know, the public knowledge, it'd save freedom of information request and all the paperwork.
We handle those accounts in the way that we're meant to do, and they are actually lodged through Cornwall Council.
So
No, I
the
would
public
be
only got that 3-week window
Yes.
or 28-day window to
That's
look at it.
correct. Yep.
And otherwise we'll get embroiled in FOI
I don't
requests.
think so.
No, if we advertise it, you know, I think if we advertise it on the notice board and on the website that they're available to view from that date to that date, I think
Whoever wants to view.
that's long enough for them to be viewed.
Yeah, and it's what other councils do as well.
Social media we're not going to touch.
I would like to know a little bit more about how they link and what the access and the safety
I will report that at the next meeting
Yes,
then.
yes,
because
please.
it's,
If you would, please. I'm just aware at the moment that when I look at what various candidates are up to around the place, there isn't any one of them who doesn't have a website, doesn't have Twitter, doesn't have Facebook, Instagram, goodness knows what. And it's for the reasons that you're saying, it's actually getting to people in any way that you can.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you would do that.
It's also once you have it, you need to have somebody who can respond to them as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And that's one of the
Yeah,
problems is
yeah.
that it can take a lot of time, can't it, this side of things.
Thank you for that. Moving on. Oh, right. Members have discussed the dates for the forthcoming meetings.
This is purely because Sarah Mason from Cornwall Association of Local Councils asked why we have our meeting on the last Monday of every month, which sometimes can get messed around with Christmas and such like, and would it be better to bring it more into the middle of the month so that it's, and maybe not always on a Monday night to avoid bank holidays and things like that. If members are perfectly happy where it is, that's fine, because if we don't, absolutely never know.
I can't see no point in changing it because Christmas and Easter always revolves on different dates. So August bank holiday, Holy Regatta, they all differ. So all these,
We don't have
Holiday
an August
dates?
meeting, we
No.
stopped that.
so all these dates are all evolving and changeable on days. So at least if you stick to a Monday for here and a Tuesday up Waycross, people got an idea of where you are. It's established pattern really.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that, please?
That's left alone.
That's left alone.
That's me. Yeah.
What did you say?
I said we do have 2 bank holidays in May, it is called.
Yeah, well, that's why we brought the May meeting forward,
Yes.
and the December one is always going to be a little feast as well.
I'm going the same as we are.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Right, stay with
And
us.
the other reason probably is Mondays was for the WI and buildings because Mondays are mostly a place when there's no other meetings taking place.
Yeah.
Other organisations have their established days.
Yeah, well, that's why we go to White Cross on Tuesday, because we can't interfere with the whist players. Right, okay, so leave that where they are, please. Right, we're moving on to financial matters. I need to alter the order here. I want to put C in first, which is the Cornwall Association of Local Councils. Members to agree to renew the annual membership subscription at a cost of £298.33, inclusive of VAT.
Well, I propose we keep to it.
They're absolutely invaluable. I don't think we can exist without them. That's just me. Adrian?
I'm sure people are more sceptical on that, but
For legal advice on how to run it. and
I'd be
chase.
lost without them.
yes, it's
Right, just say, do we
keep
have...
the status quo for now.
Right, okay. Was that a proposal?
Yes.
Thank you. And a second? Thank you. Right, so that's okay. Right, we've now got accounts for payment, please, which is the thing with the yellow log on it. Right. The first one is check 35 to Calc, Audit and Finance Conference, Being a Better Councillor, Working with Your Council Training Sessions. That included Lynette, Adrian and Julian. £410 plus VAT of £82, £492. The annual membership we have just agreed, that breaks down to £270.50 and £27.83 VAT. Society of Local Council Clerks, the regional conference which you're attending.
I attended last month, at the beginning of this month.
£99 plus £19.80 VAT, £180.80. ET payphones, princely sum of £1.
That's for the adoption of the box.
Thanks. Fran Garden Extreme Clean 840, and then we have Lynette Philp expenses £34.13 plus £6.84. Salary £652.73. Expenses, mileage and bank charge £74.20. That brings that total to £2,518.03. If you look at the reconciliation, which is up to the statement on the 27th of February, £1,452.21 in Santander, £22,186.32 in Barclays, £23,638.53 altogether. The Santander balance is to be transferred to Barclays. When do we propose doing that?
Well, we had done it, and then we had a proud payment went in unexpectedly.
In proud payment went in for 2,800. For 1,800.
So we've got to do that again.
Yeah.
And then we can have a nil balance and
Yes.
close it. Okay, when is that going to happen, please?
At the end of next month.
Can I ask a question, please? Now Kevin's resigned. Mandate, how we offer signatures, please?
We have got 2 signatures at the moment, and without checking, but I believe when we set that Barclays account up, we're only allowed 3.
So who's the 2 at the moment then?
Toby and me.
Toby and you, so you'll be needing a 3rd one.
Yes, we do. The mandate papers have only arrived today.
This morning.
Yeah.
Because we'll have to put down now for another signature for it to be put down for the bank manager to look at the mandate saying we've officially approved another signature.
I've got all the paperwork that came this morning.
But we have to put these minutes with it to say we've approved a different mandate list.
What are you proposing?
Well, I'm proposing that we decide now who's the signature and that we pass a minute who is that signature. So that the bank manager got clear instructions who the 3 signatures are. Which is standard in any committee work, because when you go to the banks with a mandate, you normally have to present minutes proving who the signatures are.
Except that it's not on the business of this meeting.
Well, can we make it an extraordinary item quickly?
No, we can't.
So we've got to go on to the next meeting.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
So I'm proposing at the next meeting we
Yes,
review the
you've now
mandate.
got to chase Toby after this meeting now, because obviously that doesn't get paid.
He's away.
No, yeah, we've talked about that, and as long as we have approved the payments tonight, and I sign those cheques, Toby can add his signature as soon as he gets back. They don't have to have both signatures at this meeting. The important thing is to approve.
Is that they're
Just
approved?
approve those.
True,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right. What is payment to SLCC? Because I don't think we bothered with them.
I went to a regional conference at St Mellon Golf and Country Club, or not one, whatever they're called, International Resort, for networking, and I met all different types of people who do play equipment and things like that, but mainly it was to go in and listen to the speakers. There was a whole part on neighbourhood plan, there was a whole part on being a clerk and what it involves and that sort of thing. There was a talk from a solicitor. It was training really for me to try and get a better understanding.
I agree paying for your training, I don't really care whether it's them or not, but are we members of SLCC?
No.
No.
Are you a member?
No.
That's fine then. Carry on, have your training, but I don't think we want to be members, or
No,
No.
we've got calc.
we've got Cal, we'll stick with one.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, right, having gone through that, is it your wish that I sign these cheques? Thank you. Thank you. Right, I'll move the table shortly.
Can I have a proposer, please?
Adrian. And Vic. Yes, show of hands, please. Yeah, got it. Right, now we've also got the budget monitor. Do you want the cheques now? Yes, please. Do you want to take us through this minute?
Yes, I will.
Yes, please.
budget monitor. Okay, so in reserves, obviously this, you have to bear with me because last month I did with Gillian and this month I've done it myself, so I'm still not up to speed. In reserves, the total we have is £15,453.31. Income to date, we've had £1.49 from bank interest. We've had 38,000 from the precept, £2,993 in grants, £1,208 for footpath maintenance, VAT refund of £4,569.84. We've had income from website adverts for £175 and miscellaneous of £13,714.30, which also includes a grant from the Town Trust. We've got no other projected expenses or income on that one. The expenditure, the grants, we've got a total of £4,313.91 in expenses to date. That was grants from Lanteglos Parochial Church Council, the Lanteglos Age Concern, White Cross Village Hall, the War Memorial and Lanteglos Parish News. Maintenance, there's no more expected projected expenses for that either, or income. The public toilets, water, we budgeted 2,000, we spent 2,112.62. The cleaning, we budgeted 8,000, we've spent 7,840. The electricity, we budgeted £220, just gone over there, 298.33. The repairs and renovations, we budgeted 1,000, but we only spent 450. There was no water rates. Miscellaneous, we budgeted 500 and only spent £25. Road salt, we budgeted 300 and was only 134. I haven't spent anything on the parish seats, we budgeted 1,800. Footpaths, budget was 2,000 and the expenses were 1,234. Ocean View electricity, just a bit over 724.45. We'd only budgeted 700. Ocean View, we budgeted £500 and I've only spent 191.61. White Cross Green was spot on at £760 and we didn't spend any of the miscellaneous money. Office expenses budgeted was £400, that came out over at 596.76. The audit, internal and external, was budgeted at 650 but was only 500. Dues, subs and specs was budgeted at 400 but went over by £135.30 to £535.30. Salaries was budgeted at 7,500 and they were 7,381.73. Payments to HMRC was £768.04. There was £1,000 budgeted for travel expenses and only £429.74 was spent. Website was budgeted at 761 and there was £267 spent. There's no election, so no costs. Hall hire was nearly half of what was budgeted. We budgeted 300 and only spent 144. Training was £800 budget and we spent £651. Insurance was £360 budget and we spent £351.61. Advertising was £300 budget and we just went over £368 on that. Miscellaneous, we did go over to £23,331.89. on that one. That leaves a total budget of 39,251, a total expense of 54,994. The projected balance at the year end is £21,120.50.
Any questions that Renee?
Yeah.
I'll start with Adrian.
We were going to alter Ocean View electricity to parish.
Yeah, we were. It's just the heading.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all that.
And the only other one on that is the maintenance. What was the actual maintenance on that? Do you know what it? Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, I've lost my pen. Right, Ocean View should be what? Sorry, Vic?
Maintenance.
No, Ocean View should go under just parish lighting now. We
Right.
said at one stage. Yes.
And what's the next
And
question?
then the other question, Ocean View maintenance. What maintenance have they done at all?
The lights, maintenance, SSE.
Yeah. What have they actually done?
I would have to look back and I don't know.
91 quid, isn't it?
They never go up there. Only time they ever go up, the wall's out, but that's about it.
Can you go back through that?
I can look
I
back
can't
and let
remember
you
the
know.
last time I've seen
yeah,
them.
okay, not now.
No.
So we'll look back next time.
Yeah, it was just a question, and it was all just the maintenance side of
I'll find out and
it.
then
it
we'll
was,
report back.
just a question.
Right. Any more questions on that? Yes, please, to accept that proposal, please, Adrian, Julie. Right, the last item under financial matters is the insurance policy for the public convenience. This was from the last minutes. Clerk has received confirmation from the insurance company that the toilets are only covered for public liability, and even if they were covered for material damage, this would still only cover damage to the building as results of a leak, not for any payments to the water board. Yeah, that would need to be a separate policy altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was just a matter of clarity. I asked the
Yeah, it
question.
is, yeah.
It was just clarifying the policy, that's all.
Yeah, okay, so that is now clear. Right, correspondence and documents not covered elsewhere. The online planning seminar, we can register to use this dynamic learning experience, which has been designed to empower local authorities and communities when initiating their neighbourhood development plans. The practical online seminar package includes videos, PowerPoint presentations, key takeaways and a summary report, all available at a discounted price of £59.99. Do we know any more than that? No. Not else. Is it possible to go and look at it?
I can leave that out if you'd like me to. Shall I?
Do you want to hear what this could provide? Thank you, Adrian does.
With the introduction of neighbourhood planning, your role in shaping your community has grown and developed significantly, but do you feel prepared to meet this challenge? Planning, the leading industry magazine for professional planners, last month delivered a neighbourhood plans and community engagement seminar to an audience of planners, parish councillors and consultants. This practical seminar highlighted best practice advice and examples gleaned from case studies of successful neighbourhood plans produced by a local authority and local community. Not everyone can attend a seminar in central London, so we are pleased to be able to offer you a practical online seminar which you can tap into without leaving your desk. This dynamic learning experience has been designed to empower local authorities and communities when initiating their neighbourhood development plans. The practical online seminar package, which includes videos, PowerPoint presentations, key takeaways and summary report, is brought to you by planning industry experts from Curdford Parish Council, Cringleford Parish Council and Wyre Forest District Council, among others. Normally priced at £79.99, we are pleased to offer you a special discounted price of £59.99. Simply fill out the registration form and use this promotional code. We also offer a special discounted price for group bookings, so don't miss out. Use your special offer today and reap the benefits of the seminar in just a few clicks. Discover how to tackle the most pressing neighbourhood development challenges, gain actionable insights from a case study on the engagement of local communities, learn how to ensure a neighbourhood plan passes referendum and gets adopted. Find out what a neighbourhood plan can deliver beyond the existing strategic planning framework.
Right, any thoughts on that, please? Now we know what it offers.
Does it come in disc form so we can pass around the various councillors? Or have we all got to pay £59 a piece to log on to the site?
There was a video we could watch, I thought.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
It's a bit like that internet package, you know, is it one-off payment for all access? Or?
It says videos, PowerPoint presentations.
It would be handy to have.
I think so for what it is.
I did send it on the Google group, but whether you all got it, I don't know, because there was a video that you could click on and it would show you what kind of things it's going to give you. I would imagine purely I would imagine that once you have created your account, we could all go and have a look at it.
As John is the person leading the neighbourhood plan, if he says it's going to be useful, go for it. Or if he says, we can all have a look at it now, I'll say, because how are we going to pay for this? Because you need a cheque, won't you? Does that mean we have to pay you a cheque and then you pay with a card online? Should do.
I can only give you the info that she sent me, but I can obviously take your questions and go back and ask. I've got the ladies. This possibly, I think, might have been something that came out of that SLCC day that I went to.
It probably was. It's
It
can either be a valuable resource or a complete waste of money, and I think we need to look at it. But
Can you resend it, please?
I'll resend them in, and then you can all have another thing.
Liz, my instinct is to say if you're going to go for a day's training, it costs you X number of pounds. In this instance, for £60, we can all have training if it's good. It is worthwhile having. It doesn't seem a lot of money if we can all access it, because I think a lot of us have a very vague knowledge, really, of what the neighbourhood plan is. And if we've got a vague knowledge of it, to actually try and explain to everybody else in the community is quite difficult, isn't it? So my instinct would be that if you think it's going to be any good, we should actually propose now to purchase it.
Okay. Right, moving on. A letter has been received from Professor Dr. Simon Clark containing the statement he made concerning the alleged breach of contract between the Council and Councillor Fisher. The Clerk has already written a letter of thanks and advised that she circulated the statement to all Council members, so that has been done. Briefing note and information bulletin from Cornwall Council outlining the next steps that will be happening with the face-to-face services such as libraries and one-stop shops. You have all that. Cornwall Council are looking to appoint members for the Cornwall Countryside Access Forum. Closing date is May the 8th. If you are interested in that, you can go onto the website, the link is there, and they're also on the parish notice boards.
Could the state of the libraries in that? I know that various people, elder people in Polruan are concerned about what's happening with the library. Nobody seems to be leading it as such, and I'm wondering if we could have an article to put on our webpage for people to look at, saying exactly what's happening to the library in this parish. It's all up in the air, and Polruan is an isolated area. Would it be worth it in the end to see for volunteer librarians they can order down online?
Or go like the having Laren of the library and the pub.
Well, no, we started this off back in the early 90s when they was going to shut the libraries completely.
So what are you asking for, Ron?
More information on exactly, or up-to-date information, what is happening to the library service, particularly affecting this parish. Will it still be runnable, or is it going to change to a new format?
So have we all, from what you said, we've already got this, have we?
Well, yeah, I think we have. I think that what is on this briefing note, I think it is kind of telling you what's going to happen. I can send it again.
If you could, please, yeah. Because it doesn't seem it seems to be talking a lot of what could be happening, what might be, but there's nothing concrete.
I think it's more the same as closing them, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Right, we've gone past the Countryside Forum. There's a new social network available called Street Life. And it's a website bringing people together based on their postcode to help everyone, residents, elected officials and local groups, discover and discuss local issues and initiatives. For more info, visit streetlife.com or download the app. Has anyone done this?
I think we've got enough magazines and
Okay,
groups
so
in Colroon.
that's for
Right.
Now, the renewable energy update and a summary of Cornwall Council's emerging planning policy and guidance, that has been circulated. Those of us that went to that planning training, there was a session on that where it was actually talking about and encouraging local council to set up their own enterprises. If we're going to go into the neighbourhood plan, and we do have to take that into account about how we consider that. Do you remember that, Bernie, because you were there? Yeah, so we do need to be aware of it.
I'm afraid Bernie and I weren't very impressed with that renewable energy gentleman, nor with Cornwall County Council's responses on it. They seem to be hell-bent on wind energy, which, in my opinion, is extremely good as a trial, but it's just not efficient. And the figures that were given out were terrible, weren't they, Bernie?
They're not accurate.
Yeah, except that we need to be aware of it if we're going to have the answers of why we're not considering it.
The question I would like to ask is, it's all this hot air of wind energy, but we've got massive rivers, you've got Colliford, you've got water running downhill all the time. What are they doing about tidal energy?
For that, please. Right. A Biodiversity and Development Planning Conference, Friday the 24th of April at Red Roof. 9:30 to 4:15, £10 plus VAT to include lunch and parking. An opportunity to network and see what can be achieved through the planning process. The website is there if you wish to be involved. The Foyne Harbour Port User Group, the stakeholder consultation group meeting. The next one is on Tuesday 21st of April at 2 o'clock in the Harbour office. AK, are you able to make that?
I'll be able to make that, yeah.
Alright, thank you. There is the Rural Health Conference 2015 on the 11th of June. Health and Wellbeing Centre, Trilis Truro. Further details, there is a link there. Code of Conduct Training, Liscard One Stop Shop, Lugstow House, 16th of July, 2 to 4, Clark to book numbers. If you haven't already done this, you should have done this because it's part of what you signed up to when you signed your, what is it? Notice of office. Acceptance of office.
But I do need numbers because I need to book.
Yeah, okay. So if you haven't done it, can you talk to Lynette, please? Thank you. Right. That brings...
Is there items for the next agenda?
Yeah.
It seems to list off.
No, it isn't list off. It's, if you go back far enough,
It's probably right.
it's on 45, future agenda items. What did you want?
I was going to bring up that at the 1st of May we open St Saviour's toilets fully, don't we? So is it worth some councillors going and seeing what needs doing and retrieving quotes. It was suggested that we should be supplying the clerk with computer equipment and one thing and another. And another thing that came up at the training course I went to last week, with regards to planning and stuff, is really we should have a projector and screen so everything can be made easily viewable. So I'll pass on to the net to look at, but I did have a look at supplying for a computer, which I picked the exact same one as you did. I thought, well, an A3 printer would be a useful size to have. Extra memory storage for backing up, so there's an external big hard drive and the projector, and it's all under 800 quid. So although it's a lot of money, but we need it. So if I just want to pass it to the net. If you want to take the kids to PC World, then they'll tell you what we need.
Didn't the council have a projector?
No, it's nowhere, and John sourced this, went back through all the records, there's no evidence.
Right. I can remember being at a council meeting where there was a projector present.
Okay, Lynn, can you have a look at that? I think we need to consider that in more detail.
Well, yeah, if you just have a look at what...
Yeah, the projector and the screen.
Definitely the projector, and that was another thing that came over the media, talk networking with other councils. There's hardly anybody that's using Pavement now anyway. Most of them have their own projector and their own screen.
It would certainly cut out a lot of paperwork, because you put the agenda up, and if you've got the screen and projector sighted right, you can have it put up be up behind you, showing the agenda.
Right, so we
And
can have
council
this.
documents if you wish the public to see them.
Yeah, put it on the agenda for next time, please. Looking at those things. Thank you.
I must admit the seating arrangements have to be slightly awkward, because we'd have to put a projector between the two tables.
Let's
to
have a
put
look
up.
what's in there first, thank you.
From Adrian, was that IT equipment going on the next agenda?
Yes.
Or do we have to say, give a rough estimate of what we would?
No,
He's already got a rough estimate,
it's,
there we go.
it's for Lynette to have a look at that, please, and then we'll...
Suggest what, if you find something better, I just went on PC World and pulled that off. But
Can I ask if there was anything else that came from that meeting that might be useful for the clerk to actually purchase, or for us to purchase?
All the time.
All the time.
I would suggest while we're looking at IT, the new filing cabinet.
oh yeah, that's it. Stick that. We need a fireproof. We've got a
I've got a fireproof box.
Maybe for the next meeting we could have a list of all of the prices, and then we can...
What I was going to suggest, drifting on, going forwards, when you receive correspondence, what you can do is just scan it and file it on the computer and shred the paper, so you haven't got tons and tons of paper for everyone.
do that actually.
So once you've got a copy of it and it's all backed up.
You need to be careful about what has to be kept. There are things that have to be kept under the statute of limitation.
Yeah, so there are some things, but say that letters from previous chairman can just go and responded to and filed.
You know what's happened in the past.
The other thing is, are we maintaining a monthly backup of the disc of the meetings?
Me,
Yeah.
I've got memory sticks all over the place. I live in fear of something happening.
So
It's all being backed up.
So in the fireproof box then, which we have, because we agreed when we took over that there would be a monthly disc kept in that fireproof
And then backed up on.
Well, one of my memory sticks can live in the fireproof box.
So what you're saying is you use sticks rather than a disc.
I've got no disc
Right, that's okay.
inserter.
Right.
Use the cloud.
We're up market.
Right,
The
We're on a
cloud
cruise.
is the old thing as well.
okay. Right, thank you for that. That brings the meeting to a close, please. We're now moving into a session.